We are back. It is Colts Corner with myself, Kevin Bowen, talking about a 3-0 football team. Out of the bullpen we go. He is very pleased with how his Chicago Bears played in Week 3. He is the one, the only. Mark Dykton here on this Monday morning. Mark, good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
That was impressive by your Bears yesterday.
Thank you. Yes, that was nice. That was a nice change of pace, as I was saying. My daughters were shocked that I was yelling as much as I was. Like, usually you're saying other words. I'm like, no, these are actually positive words.
These aren't the four-letter words, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't say earmuffs usually.
Yeah, very impressive by the Bears and very impressive certainly by the Colts. And we will get into everything right here and what I liked and what I didn't like from a 41-20 win. And Mark, I just want to start overall here for a second. You know, we talked last week, this kind of handle your business type of game. You know, I don't think there are grand takeaways necessarily within the game that maybe will apply to January, but the NFL brings up these games on the schedule, and it's your job to be disciplined, to take care of business. And if you look around the league yesterday, the Green Bay Packers, much to your pleasure, did not do that. The New York Jets almost did the same thing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's not a given you win these games, and it's not a given you win them by this amount. And I think that's probably the thing I'll start with that really stands out. You know, the Colts have played plenty of bad teams, plenty of rookie quarterbacks in recent years, and I would say for the most part they play to that competition. And if you look at the first 3 weeks of this season, I wanted to try and keep it as elementary as I could, but I wanted to look up, all right, at least 30 points scored in a game and win by at least 20. You know, you go back to week 1, 33-8, I think was the final there. Yesterday, of course, 41-20. The Colts have done that twice in the first 3 weeks. They hadn't done that at all in the 2024 season. They hadn't done that at all in the 2023 season. They hadn't done that at all in the 2022 season.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to go back 3+ years for when they've done it once, and now they've done it twice in the first 3 weeks. So that to me really stands out. And yeah, I mean, bigger picture, I get it. You face 3 teams that are a combined 1-8, and the one win is Tennessee.
You play the teams that are on the schedule. That's what I was telling people. You can only play the teams you're playing. So, yes, they're not very good, but you're also, if they lost to any of them, we'd be saying a lot different things.
Sure. And again, you're beating the piss, really, out of a couple of these teams. To me, Miami was probably a little bit more dominant than yesterday was, but nonetheless, you still score 41 points in an NFL game with a missed field goal. That certainly stands out to me. So, again, the most points scored by any Colts team through 3 weeks. I saw a stat the NFL just sent out. I want to say the stat said it's them and the 07 Patriots. That's the undefeated Patriots to have gone 3 weeks at 3-0 with less than 5 punts. And again, the Colts only have un punt here through 3 weeks. So all the stats are extremely impressive, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. So just kind of wanted a big picture start because it's a road game, it's a divisional win. Those are obviously very important. That to me, along with the continued success you're seeing, especially offensively, does matter. And I also can't wait for Sunday, Colts and Rams, in what I think will be one of the marquee games in Week 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree the Titans are hot garbage, but still, Daniel Jones has continued to impress through these 3 weeks. I think he's handled Shane Steichen's. He might complement Shane Steichen's offense better than anybody. Like, they just seem like they are totally in sync right now with what they want to do and how they want to move the football. Obviously, you got Jonathan Taylor just knocking people out with 3 touchdowns and everything like that. They did what they wanted to do yesterday, and it was more than impressive. And now you get the first true test of the NFL season for the Colts when you take on the Rams in L.A.
And before I get to what I liked and what I didn't like, let's stick right there to a comment you just made. You said something effective. He compliments Shane Steichen really well. I think that's well said. Shane Steichen is the biggest football nerd I've ever met in my life. And I think Daniel Jones offers some of that back and forth and can take that onto the football field and do it in a little bit more of a skill set than maybe Shane Steichen could have at UNLV or something like that. And I do think that matters. The chess game, I think, is really important. Do I think there's probably a defined ceiling to out chess matching everybody? Yeah, I do. But there's probably an element of Tom Brady did a lot of chessing over his years, and it clearly worked at a really high level. So the Colts, I think, walk into most games the better team X's and O's wise, particularly offensively. And I think Daniel Jones allows Shane Steichen to get into some of the weeds that he wants to. Of, hey, here's 3 plays at the line of scrimmage. Hey, they're doing this, this, and this in the red zone. If you see this pre-snap, boom, we're checking here. Whereas with Anthony Richardson or even other quarterbacks, you maybe have had to be a little bit more on the reserve side of it. And whether it's Daniel Jones at 9 p.m. on a Friday texting Shane Steichen this, or the Saturday team meeting gets over at the hotel and Daniel Jones tells the skill group, hey, don't go to your rooms. We got one more thing to go over. Mm-hmm. Like that aspect to him, I think you're seeing play out. It might not be obvious when you watch the games, but I think you're seeing some of that play out.
Have you seen like Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones are kind of similar personality-wise, where they don't give you a lot. They're almost kind of, I've called them football robots and everything like that.
Exactly.
Have you seen the social media stuff where they put phones together and the AI talks to each other? That's what I think Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones are doing. The AI is communicating together. They're getting in sync like, oh, you're a robot. I'm a robot. And we're working together.
By the way, Max Bone got some walkie-talkies for his birthday. Good idea or bad idea?
It's better than the drum set I was suggesting. So yeah, I would say walkie-talkies are fine. My daughters have some that are at Grandma and Grandpa's for good reason, because when they get them, they don't go the distance away. They're right next to each other, so you get all the static and the feedback.
Yeah.
So make sure they're at a safe distance. But yeah, we've had that a couple times.
Safe distance might be the trash here in the next couple weeks.
I know. My parents are like, here you go. I'm like, no, these are staying at your house. These are not at our house at all.
Yeah, I'm still trying to sift through that. Okay, what was the first thing I liked?
First thing you liked, unsurprisingly, Jonathan Taylor, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, the man we had on our show this morning. We'll either throw that in on this podcast or throw it in on the Wednesday pod. But, I thought, to me, Mark, the Taylor effort through the first 2.5 quarters, it was rather ho-hum. 12 carries, I think it was, 40-ish yards. Mm-hmm. You really hadn't seen the big play yet. And then he rips off the 46-yarder. I think it's up there with any Taylor run I've seen. It's a play Shane Steichen was just oozing about late in the week of like, I cannot wait to run this play. Tyler Warren is the lead fullback, old school. He was foaming at the mouth waiting for it. And sure enough, boom, that's where they deploy it. And Taylor has the cut and then the spin, which is not really his game. His game's not really a spin move type of, runner. And then he runs through those couple of arm tackles for the touchdown. Like, I think Jonathan Taylor's headed to Canton. I think right now he is at a Hall of Fame start to his career, and assuming nothing crazy happens, I think he will be a Hall of Famer one day. That's one of those runs that will be on the reel. And I thought the last touchdown run, I'm going to show my Notre Dame bias here, but Jeremiah Love had a 2-yard touchdown run in the playoff against Penn State. That touchdown run by Taylor kind of reminded me of that. Mm-hmm. You're breaking a couple tackles, getting the pads are low, just extra effort, frankly, for that third and final touchdown to really ice the game, although I thought the 46-yarder probably iced it.
You heard it here first. Jeremiah Love and Jonathan Taylor, Hall of Famers.
Well, Mark Dykman putting words in my mouth.
Yep.
But it was just, it was damn impressive from Taylor. At times maybe he doesn't have as many of the highlight reel runs, but, he's had a couple, the 68-yarder making the guy miss in the backfield, back against Denver. And
he seems rejuvenated.
Yes, I would say that. And, I brought up the stat on our morning show today. So far through 3 weeks, it's one of the wilder discrepancies I've seen from first half success to second half success. In the first half through 3 games, Taylor's averaging 3.4 yards per carry, 35 carries for 118 yards. In the second half, he's averaging 8.8 yards per carry, nearly a 5.5 yard difference from one half to the next. And some might say, well, the 68-yarder skews things. Oh, the 46-yarder skews things. But that's who Taylor is. His stamina is here, and defensive players, I'm going lower and lower and lower, Mark, because now the arm tackle is softer, and it's not as violent, if you will,
right,
as it was in the first half. That, to me, is what makes Taylor truly unique. I go back to that Houston game a couple years ago to end the season. I mean, he was so good in that game. I always think that's kind of an underappreciated game from him. But I wanted to mention Taylor first. I just thought individually, it wasn't there was just a little bit of a lull before that 46-yard run. Tennessee was kind of moving the ball pretty good. And for him to rip that off just was not another reminder of his home run ability there, because that run could have gone for 10, 15, and, it would have been a nice run, but, then you're back kind of in the high red zone, and you're thinking, oh, boy, Are the Colts going to finish off this drive? No. Takes it all the way. Game ball, Jonathan Taylor.
Another guy you like, Daniel Jones.
Yeah, for me, Mark, it's staying away from the negatives. And, like, I know that's not the sexiest thing in the world. I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm describing the old, she had a great personality on the date. But I think this matters more. We're going to watch the Manning cast, and I believe you just told me before the podcast that Daniel Jones is going to make an appearance on the Manning cast tonight.
Daniel Jones should be thoroughly entertaining, right?
So that's a little Peyton Eli with Ravens Lions, correct?
Yeah.
Second quarter for Daniel Jones.
That's what it says.
Okay. Definitely, I typically always watch the Manning cast, but I'll definitely be watching it tonight. Peyton says something quite often on that Manning cast. A big, big job of a quarterback is don't make a bad play worse. And I'm going to bring up a play from yesterday that I thought kind of epitomized that. The 3rd and 4 near midfield, they had just, it was still one of those kind of close games, 27-13. If you have to punt here, again, Tennessee's offense, Tennessee had those 5 straight drives where they got in Indy territory. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, they probably need one more score to really get into the game and to kind of take Michael Pittman's, post-game comments of, they didn't look ready to play pregame and kind of say, oh, wow, maybe they are going to show up because we've let them back in the game. But it was a 3rd and 4, and the play designed up isn't going anywhere. And instead of an incompletion, instead of a sack, instead of a throwaway, Jones dumps it over to Jonathan Taylor. And the play netted 3 yards. So again, it's not going to show up in any highlight reel. It's not going to really impress many people from a box score standpoint, but it allowed you to get to 4th and 1. And obviously Shane Steichen goes for it, and boom, QB sneak it, and then you score off of that sort of possession. That's what I'm talking about, Mark, of like the no interceptions and the 2 sacks in 3 games, incredible stats. But it's also the just don't give up on it and throw it away. Because 3 yards, the old Navy Army football of, hey, we got 4 downs to get those 10 yards. That really applies to Shane Steichen. And the simple stuff like that, and again, it's not like Taylor broke a tackle or like, he had a nice run, but nothing crazy there. To get 3 yards, that's what's really standing out to me. I thought obviously Jones showed off his legs a little bit. The 3rd and 7 Houdini act was pretty darn impressive there in the first quarter. To scramble there, I would like to see him slide a little bit more given his injury history. But still, staying away from the negatives. That's been an issue for him in his career. And for him to have done that through the first 3 weeks, huge.
He's helped Shane Steichen keep the entire playbook open, is how I would describe it. He hasn't cost them where he's going like, boy, we got to pick up 3rd and forever here now. I got to reach in my bag of tricks. No, he's kept the whole playbook open for all 3 games so far. Yeah,
and I would add this too, Mark. He also keeps everyone involved in the route tree. Like, when you think about the Denver game, Taylor had a couple of just Denver bust out of the backfield, and boom, there's Taylor. And he's, having a huge gain. Like, those things also stand out to me of, don't forget about the 3rd and 4th option in the progression because they might be, a huge, huge deal in helping you, again, stay ahead of the chains, be a little bit more of the methodical nature to it. The go back to our baseball analogy, singles and doubles. I said to the guys on the show today, what was the most impressive Daniel Jones pass from yesterday? And it was met with some pause. And to me, he had some impressive throws. I don't want to act like he didn't. But you would say Cam Ward had the flashier playmaking.
Yeah, for sure.
But yet, Daniel Jones ends the day with that quarterback rating because he stays away from the negatives. If you're taking 2 of these drives that are going 60 yards and you're either throwing them to the other team or, again, taking a sack or just an incompletion sets up a little bit of 3rd and longer, that changes the whole complexion of those drives, potentially the score, potentially game flow. So I thought week 2, he impressed me more with kind of the Sunday big league throws. And again, I get that Tennessee is struggling defensively. Offensively, they're really struggling. But defensively, they are struggling a little bit as well, and we're missing some guys. The fact that you're staying away from the negatives, just a huge recipe for success.
All right, last thing you liked, sticking on the offensive side, the offensive line.
We don't give the Hog Mollies enough credit. We don't. This might just be like a 3-week thing, Mark, but we just don't give them enough credit. So 2 sacks and 88 pass attempts. If you look at that Taylor run, and obviously Tyler Warren had a lot to do with it. I mean, Taylor wasn't even touched through the first, 7, 8, 9 yards of that run. That's a head of steam. He's able to get there on that toss play. So I think you got to give the O-line some credit. Again, it might be more of a 3-week thing and just a hat tip to them, but they're allowing so much of this to happen. I do think Jones has showed me more poise under duress when duress has been there than I thought was there. He had 27 dropbacks and only hit twice. So, that, of course he scrambled a couple times, but that also stands out to me. So, want to make sure we single out the offensive line.
All right, time to switch to things you didn't like. Hard to find things in a 21-point victory that you didn't like, but there are a couple, and you said the overall defensive effort by the Colts defense.
Yeah, and let me start here. I do think when you're defending a rookie quarterback, particularly one of Cam Ward's kind of backyard football, it's a very unique game plan that you might not use the rest of the year. Having said that, I don't think the 60-minute execution was maybe at the level that you would have liked it to be. Mm-hmm. Some might say I'm nitpicking here, but it's the best Tennessee's moved it all year. It's the most points they've scored all year. And they still had, 2 missed field goals and just some wild decision-making, frankly, in general by Brian Callahan.
If it wasn't for their own buffoonery, there was times where I'm like, if they were a better team, this could have been a little more closely contested.
Yeah, they are as inept on the sidelines from a coaching standpoint as they are talent-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that was, to think Brian Callahan was a person that, the Colts almost hired is kind of wild. It's just wow. Can you imagine, watching, Shane Steichen operate versus Brian Callahan? I see why the Titans have lost 9 in a row.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm getting at here. So, I know the 4 sacks are the 4 sacks, and the run defense is a little bit better, but I still just have some bigger picture concerns about this defense. And again, Tennessee had those 5 straight drives there, Mark, in the middle of the game, where they all got to Indy territory, 2 missed field goals, 2 touchdowns, and a field goal. Again, that's not, if your offense wasn't as humming as much, then that could have been, to your point, a little bit more of a competitive game. Obviously, the Kenny Moore pick 6. Kenny just seemingly is always in the right spot at the right time. But let's not act like that was some heroic defensive play there. That was largely a rookie mistake. Now
Cam Ward stared his guy down.
Sure. Now again, you got him into a 3rd and 9, and Latu lined up as a middle linebacker on that play, and maybe that confused Ward a little bit there. But I guess I just don't want to overreact too much. Really, either way with this defense, I think it's fine after 3 weeks for you to. I have some questions about this defense. I think week 1 certainly was very impressive. Week 2, that's kind of regression to the mean. Week 3, I'd call it a mixed bag. So maybe it's not what I didn't like, but I just thought for their own execution, 20 points in that amount of movement, not a great performance from the defense. And weirdly, Lou Anarumo had kind of had a mixed bag against rookie quarterbacks in his career. You would think with the exotic nature to Lou, he would be better against rookies. So, I don't really know what to make of that stat, frankly, but, Cam Ward definitely had some success. And, he misses a Okonkwo, on that opening drive over the middle. I mean, that could have been obviously a big play into scoring range. So just a little bit of a mixed bag, and certainly the opposition will be much different. Granted, Matthew Stafford hasn't had great success against Lou Anarumo in his career, but I think the Rams are a much different challenge, and they'll take advantage of some of your mistakes if you do make them.
Another thing, no fan of any team wants to see, injuries was one thing you didn't like.
Yeah, so Alec Pierce and Kenny Moore are the 2. Mooney Ward did come back in the game before they put in the reserves there late. But, Kenny Moore has the calf. Alec Pierce, the concussion. I think this is at least the 2nd, if not the 3rd concussion for Pierce in his career. So, obviously, concussions are bad. And the absence typically is right around a week or so. Mooney Ward's was a week. I mentioned this, Mark, because they're both so unique players. Kenny's injury in a vacuum, a calf, probably could be a little bit more multiple week. And you hope, obviously, it's only a calf. Sometimes you get in that area of the leg and you really start worrying about things. But both of them are just unique players for their side of the ball. Alec Pierce has shown, I still think he caught that deep ball yesterday.
I do too.
I didn't really understand the whole explanation of it, but
that was his best throw of the game, in my opinion. Daniel Jones's, and I'm like, how did that not count?
And Pierce just always comes down with it.
I know.
But he's also doing more of the other stuff, kind of rounding out that route tree. So his absence, I think you have to defend the Colts totally different when he's on the field versus when he's off. He helps you kind of keep that other safety back. And that allows Jonathan Taylor, maybe to get into the second level a little bit easier. And then with Kenny, it kind of goes without saying. How many times do you see Kenny right there? He's right there to make that play when Cam Ward has a mistake. And again, what's your slot corner? Is it Mekhi Blackman? He's been playing some dime. That gets stressed when you're playing Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and company. So just a couple of injuries to watch. I would call each of them two of the more unique players to their respective sides of the ball. And so I think that's why I do bring that up here. The Colts had gone about 6 or 7 quarters, Mark, without an in-game injury. They had been remarkably healthy. All 53 Colts were healthy for Sunday. Mm-hmm. So they've had a great injury situation, great health report, I should say, through the first 3 weeks here, which, it's important to take advantage of that, which they are.
All right, unless you got anything else, we'll move to Twitter questions.
Let's do it.
All right, Raj starts us off today. He said, couldn't help but be a little upset with one of the commentators questioning the legitimacy of the Colts' success so far. I just want to know yours and Mark's opinions on how for real this Colts team is. Their words, not mine. Thanks as always, and keep up the splendiferous work. That's a fun word.
Come again with that?
Splendiferous.
Gee, wow. Is that real?
I read it as it's written. Okay. So, yeah.
All right. Well, shout out to Raj for that.
It must be on the word calendar today.
A little different SAT English section for Raj than you and I think, back in the day there. I mean, I guess let's start here, Raj. These NFL shows are be big, be grand, be bold. I don't know. A lot of that just sounds awful to me. I sit here and say the Colts are doing stuff they've never done before. Never done. And, I've mentioned some of the stats already. And I go back to kind of what I said leading into the season. The Colts are banking on 3 things that are going to be different. Quarterback play, pass catching, and defense. And Mark, let's grade those on a 1 to 10 scale. How positively different has the quarterback play been, the pass catching, and the defense on a 1 to 10? I'd argue quarterback is like at an 8.
Yeah, that's what I thought immediately.
Pass catching, I'd say 6, maybe higher.
Yeah, because you didn't change too many people out.
I mean, Warren,
right,
obviously.
Right. He's been the difference. But other than that, it's been cut and paste from last season.
But those guys are catching the football. And like Michael Pittman Jr. with the back is different. And Alec Pierce has shown more of the route tree. And like A.D. Mitchell, I think, has shown competency when you've thrown him the football. And then lastly, defense. I mean, that's probably the lowest one. I'd say it's, maybe like a 4 difference on a 1 to 10 scale. Being like...
Put it at the mid, I'll say 5.
1 being like the exact same as last year. So, when all 3 of those are in the positive, and the most important one, quarterback, is in the uber positive.
Right.
How do you sit here and act like this is the same old song and dance? So, again, challenges are going to increase. And, I actually was talking about this to Maddie last night. Like, she's like, wow, Colts have only played 3 games? Like, it seems like it's so much more.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe because it's been so different. But, if they did the whole NBA thing, where would we be at right now? Would we even be at the end of the first quarter of a game?
No.
So like, and, insert a Pacer playoff game here to watch how much a game can change. The NFL is a grind, is what I'm saying. A 17-week grind. So sustaining it is such a challenge. And yes, you can't ignore I'm not going to sit here and ignore the schedule. You've played 3 teams that are combined 1-8. And the one win is over the Titans. Having said that, go back to what I said earlier in the show. Find me times the Colts are winning 41-20. Find me times the Colts are winning 33-8. Yes, more challenges will be there. Better challenges, better barometers, all of that. But the Colts are running away from some of these teams in fashions that we haven't seen in years.
Mm-mm. I would say, to answer Raj's question as well, why the commentators were questioning the Colts' success, I think it's just, in my opinion, it's because the Colts just kind of go under the radar nationally for the most part. Like, no one really thought they were going to be anything, and considering who their opponents were through the first 3 weeks, I can understand there's some skepticism, but there's no arguing the points that they're putting up there. You are beating bad teams, and you're beating them thoroughly. So the Chiefs did that. They, slurping Patrick Mahomes more than they already do, and all that stuff. By the way, splendiferous, having great beauty and splendor. There you go.
I'm glad you went there. I don't know if I could go with slurping Patrick Mahomes anymore.
Well, Chris Collinsworth, even when a backwards pass was going yesterday, he was like, "Oh, that was a great play by Patrick Mahomes. Gotta love that he dove on that one. He threw a backwards pass twice. It's terrible."
Keep that up. I'm gonna have to drag Eddie Garrison back in the studio.
All right, let's move on to Cameron/Craig. How worried are you about the pass rush? I know they got 4 sacks against a weak Tennessee offensive line, but Tennessee was in clear pass mode for most of the game. Love the pod.
Yeah, I would say in general, and obviously we got a couple of these questions, I am worried about the pass rush right now. Traditional 4-man rush. Now, obviously you want to see Latu, and Latu played a good amount of snaps yesterday. To me, the pass rush plan yesterday, it's just so different. Like I think I talked about on Wednesday's pod, I actually think the Colts will do a good job on Cam Ward, because I think they're such a bad edge rush team with speed. They'll just bull rush their way to keeping Cam Ward in the pocket. And for the most part, they did a nice job with that. It's more of the, with a guy like Stafford, Mark, you want Latu screaming around the edge to where Stafford has to step up, and that's where 99 and 90 make their plays. And the Rams have been banged up in their O-line interior this season. So that's where you want to kind of feast with him. So that is a question that I have through 3 weeks. Where's your pass rush? And one thing I do think you have to feel encouraged about Lou Anarumo, he's shown in his career, he is willing to disrupt from both sides of it, rush and cover. And I thought a couple of sacks yesterday probably started more with cover than they did rush. But if you're willing to play press and you're willing to do some of that stuff, again, you're going to be more inclined. But yeah, I would say right now, that is one of the bigger concerns I have is, can your pass rush have that kind of natural feel to it? Because I don't feel that really through the first 3 weeks of the season.
All right, next up, Matt/Colin says, all right, Kevin, I feel like you're the only one that's been through it with me. Are the Colts legit yet, or do we need to see a few more weeks?
Boy, there is nothing. Committing to anything in the month of September in the NFL is probably dumb. And I was trying to think about this on the drive in this morning, Mark. If you look at the past few years, what the Colts have done in September has largely been what they have been. 2023, blah. 2022, blah. Actually, 2022, they might have beat the Chiefs in September. I'd have to go back to that.
I believe you're correct there. I think that was a week 3 win. 2024, again, kind of blah. And those seasons largely were that. You go back to 2020, Rivers' year, Colts actually started off pretty slow and then rattled off a ton. Mm-hmm. And so that would be the reverse in a positive direction. 2019 would probably be the reverse in a negative direction. 2019 is when you started 5-2, and then it fell off a cliff for you there. So, do we need to see a few more weeks? Yes. And I can also sit here and say what the Colts have done through 3 weeks is very impressive. Uh-huh. But if I'm going to start saying here, Santa Clara, do we need to get an Airbnb near there in early February? I think you got to see a few more weeks. I do find Sunday to be a great test, and I don't think you're going to have, Michael Pittman Jr. has quotes after the game on Sunday of, they kind of looked sluggish. They weren't really bouncing around pregame. Right then, we looked at each other and said, they don't want to play today. Mm-hmm. I don't think you're going to say that about the Rams. No.
Coming up
Sean McVay won't allow that.
Particularly with how their game ended against the Eagles. So, whether it's the Rams today, whether it's, Arizona's had a nice start to the season. Mm-hmm. You're going to see Kyler Murray in a few weeks, whether it's the Chargers, certainly in a little bit of time. I think the back half of the schedule offers some nice challenges as well. The only divisional game between now and December you play is Tennessee again.
Yeah.
So, what is Jacksonville going to, right now Jacksonville's a game back. Are they going to be lurking when you play them twice in the final month of the season there? So, look, the Colts have had a great start to the season. No chance in hell would I have thought they would, record-wise, 2-1, 3-0. Okay, maybe it's not that big of a difference, but never would have guessed they would look like this.
Right.
To the offense particularly, and Jones particularly, humming to the level that he's in. And right now, I feel, very comfortable in saying, to me right now, they got to be the AFC South favorite. But again, 17 weeks, it's a grind. But if you ask me right here on September 22nd, I'd be surprised if they weren't a playoff team. Like,
Yeah.
not only are they in good AFC South standing, they continue to be in nice, like, wild card positioning, as weird as it sounds. They've won 3 AFC games. Like, that's sneakily important. If you lose on Sunday, it's to an NFC team.
All right.
Like, it's not the end of the world there. So, but to commit to anything bigger than that, yeah, I'll let somebody else do that right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait. I do think they are legit, obviously, the numbers that they're putting up. As far as like where they place in the AFC, talk to me after the Chargers game in mid-October. I feel like that's gonna be a good barometer.
So what's that stretch between now and the Chargers?
It is at Rams, and then back-to-back home games between the Raiders and Cardinals, and then at Chargers on October 19th.
Yeah.
And that's right before the Titans come to Lucas Oil and before you head to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in November. So there's a stretch coming up in November to December that'll be pretty interesting because you have home against the Titans, at Steelers, home against the Falcons. That's the Berlin game. And then at the Chiefs, home against the Texans, at the Jaguars, at the Seahawks. There's a stretch there, and the 49ers as well. So there's a stretch near the end of the season where you are going to really get tested week in and week out to really see. But if you can get out of the Chargers game relatively unscathed, and you might be having 5-6 wins maybe at that point, you're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, when you just rattle off that schedule, we could say at the end of the year, this 3-game stretch was their easiest. But still, some of these wins are, and boy, isn't it crazy how just week 2, that end of the week 2 game. And can you imagine being a Denver fan right now?
I know.
Last
Sick
2
your
weeks,
stomach.
how you've lost? Oh, man.
Sick
Crazy.
to your stomach.
Crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, the Colts schedule is somewhat of a, I don't want to say cakewalk because this is the NFL, but as far as making hay while you can, this is the time to do it because that stretch in November and December, the level of opponent and the level of stakes that will be on those games is going to ratchet up big time. So if you can pad those standings right now, you're 3 games clear of the Texans right now. They look like a dead team walking. So if you can pad those stats and standings before you get to that meat of the schedule, you're pretty golden if you're Shane Steichen's crew.
And look, naturally, you're going to have some injuries.
Right.
I mean, the Colts just played a football game where all 53 dudes were healthy. I mean, that does not happen very often at any point in the season. So, if you start to get some injuries naturally, that's going to impact things too.
Yeah. So can you go 5-2, 6-1 through these first 7 games? You'll really be making some hay if you go there. All right. Last one on the Twitter questions is Curtis and Hank both asked, was up with JT Tuimoloau a healthy scratch? Surely he can be better than Ebukam, who seems lost. Love the pod. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so again, healthy scratch for the second-round pick out of Ohio State. I'd rather see him than Samson Ebukam right now, I guess, just to put it succinctly. Again, to go back to what Lou Anarumo said after week 1, some games will have more defensive tackles up. Tennessee, more of a run team with Tony Pollard, so they had the extra defensive tackle for that game versus the extra defensive end. I'm looking at my snap counts right now just to see how much that extra defensive tackle played. I don't know, maybe the heat and rotating a little bit. You got 11 snaps for Eric Johnson, so that's your 5th defensive tackle versus having that extra end. Again, one of those tackles plays special teams, which helps, and Adetomiwa Adebawore. But with JT, what is also surprising to me, Mark, is he's not your second-round pick that was some project. Sometimes you get these like flashy trait pass rusher that doesn't have a lot of college production, but you're like, wow, did you see what he did? And he played in the SEC on a loaded defensive line. If we just expand his role and he grows more into his body, we can get there. And you kind of commit to the early red shirt. That's not this at all. He was a highly, highly productive player at Ohio State. Versatile. I think he's shown that a little bit in the NFL. So that's what's kind of surprising. And we do know Lou Anarumo's kind of shied away from playing young guys in Cincinnati. So, is that at play here? Maybe. So just some things to keep an eye on. But right now, I'm just not seeing it from some, Tyquan Lewis, I'm totally fine with. But to me, Ebukam's a 1. Again, right now, Latu, and Kwity Paye, it's been a very quiet start to his season, too, in the pass rush department. But I get that those guys are going to be active. I think right now, Tuimoloau over Ebukam would be something I would keep an eye on. I'm trying to think how many snaps Ebukam played yesterday. He played a lot. He played 36. I guess they're really rotating those 4 DNs pretty evenly. Latu 39, Lewis 38, Ebukam 36, Paye 35. So, again, how much of that is 90-degree heat or 85-degree heat down there in Nashville.
All right, that's it. Unless you got some final thoughts.
Boy, I can't wait for week 4. I think it's going to be a great one. Colts and Rams coming up 4. Is that right, Mark? The 4-point underdog?
Yeah, 3.5 is what I saw this morning.
3.5.
So maybe it's just a little bit, but yeah, 3.5 point underdog was last I saw.
3.5. I'm seeing 47.5 right now, which I venture to guess is probably going to be one of the higher over-unders. Boy, we got a good little week 4 slate here coming up here.
Yeah,
first game overseas. Good to have 2 Monday night games because Jets-Dolphins should not be a standalone Monday night
Boy,
game.
and those games stink, quite honestly. Both those, the Monday night doubleheader, none of those are sexy after the quarterback injuries and whatnot. But yeah, week 4 looks pretty good. And then tonight you got the Manning cast with Daniel Jones, and you got Michael Phelps, and you got actor Jeff Daniels. So there you go.
That's a wide-ranging crew right there.
Jeff Daniels, my favorite movie of all time, Dumb and Dumber. I would love to see some more Harry Dunn.
Yes, amen to that right there. He is Mark Dykton. I'm Kevin Bowen. Mark, as always, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Colts Corner with myself, Kevin Bowen. We'll be back Wednesday previewing Colts and Rams in week 4.